Awakening to the True God, a journey of faith and power. In the heart of the lush village of Imbalu, nestled between towering baobab trees and the whispering river, there lived a woman named Nyasha. Her beauty was a force of nature, unlike anything the village had ever seen. Her deep, mesmerizing eyes seemed to hold the secrets of the universe, and her laughter had the power to stop a storm in its tracks. Men from all corners of Imbalu, from farmers to fishermen, from warriors to traders, had tried to win her heart. But Nyasha's heart was as wild as the untamed savanna. It wasn't wealth that moved her, nor was it strength or words of poetry. She was looking for something else, something that even she could not name. It was said that her standards were impossible, but Nyasha held her head high and waited, for she knew that the man who could truly satisfy her spirit would bring more than material gifts or charm. Her mother, Emma Ojeki, would often shake her head, worried that her daughter would never find happiness. One day, a great suitor arrived from a neighboring kingdom. Prince Jabari, known for his cunning and wealth, rode into Imbalu on a horse draped in golden cloth. The entire village gathered to watch him as he approached Nyasha's home. He presented her with gifts, silver necklaces, jeweled anklets, and perfumes that smelled of the rarest desert flowers. But as Nyasha looked into his eyes, she saw no mystery, no thrill of adventure. "Is this all you bring, Prince Jabari?" she asked, her voice a melody that made even the oldest elders lean in to listen. The prince flushed with embarrassment and rode away, leaving behind whispers and laughter. The next suitor was Kofi, a fearless hunter known to have defeated a lion with his bare hands. He knelt before Nyasha, his muscles rippling with strength, and told tales of his bravery, but Nyasha's heart remained unmoved. Weeks passed, and the village buzzed with rumors. Men grew fearful of trying, whispering that perhaps Nyasha was cursed or that she sought something not of this world. Yet in the darkest nights, Nyasha would gaze at the stars, feeling an ache in her chest, a longing that made her wonder if she had been too harsh. Then, one fateful evening, a stranger arrived in Imbalu. He was neither wealthy nor mighty. In fact, he looked like a simple traveler, his feet bare and dusty from the long journey. His name was Kwame. His eyes held the quiet strength of someone who had seen the world, but his presence felt like the calm before a storm. Instead of gifts, Kwame carried stories, secrets, and riddles. He spoke of lands where the rivers turned to gold at sunrise, of creatures that could change shape under the moonlight, and of places where dreams danced with reality. But just as Nyasha found herself drawn to his words, a shadow seemed to pass over Kwame's face. The elders noticed too, and soon the entire village whispered of something sinister that had followed him into Imbalu. Nyasha felt her heart beat with a thrill she had never known, but danger now lurked in the air. What secrets did Kwame hide, and would Nyasha find herself satisfied or trapped in a web spun by a past darker than any she could have imagined? That night, the moon hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the village of Imbalu. A cool breeze carried the scent of blooming wildflowers, yet something felt unsettling. Nyasha couldn't sleep. Her thoughts were tangled with the stranger's words, his voice echoing like a song she couldn't forget. Unable to resist, she wrapped herself in a shawl and stepped out into the cool night air. She found Kwame sitting by the old bonfire pit in the village square, the flames crackling and dancing with an otherworldly energy. He was telling another story, but this time, his audience wasn't the curious villagers. Instead, the spirit of the night seemed to listen in, trees swaying as though enchanted. Nyasha approached cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. As she drew closer, Kwame turned to her, his dark eyes holding a spark of something that made her both excited and uneasy. "You couldn't sleep either?" he asked, a knowing smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "No," she admitted, wrapping the shawl tighter around her shoulders. "I feel as though there's something in the air. Something waiting to happen." Kwame's smile faded. "You're not wrong," he said quietly, and his gaze drifted to the shadows beyond the firelight. This village. It's peaceful, but peace has a way of drawing attention. Unwanted attention. Nyasha frowned, the thrill in her chest now mixed with a tinge of fear. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Kwame turned to her, his voice lowering so that only she could hear. "There are spirits in this land, Nyasha. Spirits that hunger for stories, for life, and for souls who dare to defy them. I carry tales that can soothe them, but tales can also awaken them." Nyasha's heart raced. "Are you saying you've brought danger here?" Kwame's expression was unreadable, but he held her gaze, a strange sadness in his eyes. "Sometimes, we don't choose the stories that follow us," he said. "But now that I'm here, it seems your village is wrapped in something ancient and hungry." Before Nyasha could respond, a sudden rustling interrupted them. The fire flickered and threatened to go out, and a chill swept over the square. The village dogs began to bark, their cries echoing through the night. Nyasha turned toward the sound and saw a shadow, a figure moving between the trees, tall and menacing. Kwame rose to his feet, his muscles tense. "Stay behind me," he commanded, but Nyasha's pride and courage flared. "No," she replied, standing beside him. "I am not one to hide." Just as she finished speaking, the shadow emerged from the forest. It was no man, but a creature of nightmares, tall, with eyes that glowed like embers and a body covered in what looked like twisted vines and roots. It hissed, a sound that made the villagers awaken in terror, peering from their homes. The creature's eyes fixed on Nyasha, and it spoke in a voice like the wind through dead leaves. "The storyteller has come, and he has awakened us. But it is you, Nyasha, who we crave. The one no man could satisfy, for your soul holds a power even you do not understand." Nyasha's knees nearly buckled, but Kwame stepped forward, his voice steady. "Leave her be," he commanded. "Your quarrel is with me." The creature's laughter rang out, cold and echoing. "Foolish traveler, you think your words can bind us forever. The debt must be paid, and she will help us cross into the world of men." Nyasha's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" she demanded, her voice shaking. Kwame's face was grim. "Nyasha," he said, "I've brought you danger, but perhaps you are the only one who can help me defeat it." The creature lunged, and everything erupted into chaos. Villagers screamed, fires roared to life, and Nyasha found herself pulled between two forces, one that sought to destroy her and another that needed her in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. In that moment, Nyasha realized that the mystery she had been waiting for, the adventure she longed for, had arrived. But was she ready to face it, or would this be the end of everything she had ever known? The air was thick with fear as the creature's guttural growl sent chills down every spine in Imbalu. Villagers clutched each other, watching in horror as the nightmare unfolded. The beast lunged with a speed that defied its monstrous size, and Kwame acted swiftly. He drew a pouch from his satchel, scattering a handful of shimmering dust into the air. The dust exploded in a burst of light, momentarily blinding the creature and halting its advance. It screeched in agony, recoiling into the shadows. But Nyasha knew this was only the beginning. Her heart raced as she looked at Kwame, who seemed unfazed yet burdened with the weight of unspoken truths. "What is that thing?" Nyasha asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Kwame clenched his jaw. "An ancient guardian spirit gone rogue," he explained. "Long ago, it protected these lands, but something corrupted it. Now it craves power, and it has sensed something unique in you." Nyasha's mind reeled. "In me," she echoed. "Why me? I'm just me." Kwame's gaze softened, but urgency remained. "No, Nyasha. You are more than you realize. Your spirit is tied to this land's essence. That's why no suitor could satisfy you. You are connected to something bigger, something powerful. Nyasha shook her head, disbelief warring with the instinct that told her he was right. Before she could respond, the creature emerged from the darkness once more, its form now even more terrifying. Roots twisted around its limbs, and fire burned in its eyes. It spoke, its voice echoing like a curse. "You cannot run, Nyasha," it hissed. "You are the key to our freedom. Surrender, and we will spare your people." Nyasha's fear twisted into a simmering anger. How dare this creature threaten her village, her home? But before she could act, Kwame stepped in front of her, his voice strong and commanding. "She will never be yours," he shouted. "I know your weaknesses, spirit, and I will bind you again." The creature laughed, a hollow, mocking sound. "You think your spells are enough, mortal? We know your secrets too." And then, without warning, the creature shot forward. Its twisted vines reached for Nyasha, but she felt a surge of something powerful within her, a force she had never known she possessed. She raised her hands, and a burst of energy erupted from her, sending the creature hurtling back. Everyone, even Kwame, stared at her in shock. What did I just do?" Nyasha whispered, staring at her trembling hands. Kwame's eyes widened, a spark of hope flickering in his gaze. "You are awakening," he said. "Your power is tied to this land, and it's beginning to reveal itself." Nyasha's heart thudded, but there was no time to question her newfound abilities. The creature was regaining its strength, and it was clear it would not give up until it had claimed her. Villagers were screaming, scattering for cover, and the chaos was growing by the second. Kwame grabbed Nyasha's hand, pulling her close. "We have to act fast," he said urgently. "There's an ancient shrine deep in the forest, a place where your power can be harnessed. It's our only chance to defeat this thing." Nyasha looked into his eyes, seeing both fear and unwavering determination. "And if I fail?" she asked, her voice cracking. Kwame's grip tightened. "You won't," he said. "You're stronger than you think. But we have to move now." Together, they dashed toward the forest, the creature's furious roars echoing behind them. As they ran, the ground seemed to tremble, and shadows stretched like clawed hands, trying to catch them. The journey ahead was treacherous, and with every step, Nyasha felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. The forest loomed ahead, dark and foreboding, but also pulsing with an ancient magic that seemed to call out to Nyasha. Whatever lay within, it would reveal the truth about who she really was, and whether she had the strength to save her village from a nightmare that was only just beginning. The forest felt alive, as though it had been waiting for this moment. The trees stood taller, their gnarled branches reaching for the heavens, while the air grew dense with an electric hum. Nyasha could feel something stirring within her, something ancient, as though the land itself was whispering secrets only she could hear. Kwame led the way, his steps quick but deliberate. He seemed to know exactly where he was going, which unsettled Nyasha. "How do you know about this shrine?" she asked, her voice sharp with suspicion. Kwame didn't look back. "Because I've been here before," he admitted long ago, "when I was younger and foolish. The shrine is where I first encountered the spirit that now haunts us." Nyasha's breath caught. "You brought this upon us." Kwame stopped abruptly, turning to face her. His expression was pained, his eyes pleading. "Yes," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I sought power, and I made a mistake that cost me everything. But I'm here to make it right. I swear to you, Nyasha, I will protect you." Nyasha studied him, torn between anger and the strange connection she felt to him. There was no time to argue. Behind them, the ground began to quake, the beast's roars growing louder as it pursued them. She nodded, signaling him to continue. They pushed forward, the trees closing in around them as if the forest were testing their resolve. Nyasha stumbled on a root, and Kwame caught her arm, steadying her. "Careful," he warned. But even as he helped her, his eyes darted to the shadows, as if he expected the creature to emerge at any moment. Suddenly, the air grew colder, and a dense fog enveloped them. Kwame cursed under his breath. "It's trying to confuse us," he said. "Stay close." Nyasha felt her fear rising, but she refused to let it consume her. "How much farther?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. "Just beyond that ridge," Kwame replied, pointing to a faint glow in the distance. "The shrine is there." As they approached the ridge, the fog grew thicker, and the sounds of the creature's pursuit seemed to fade. But this quiet was no comforting, it was oppressive. Nyasha could feel eyes on her, though she saw nothing in the gloom. When they finally reached the ridge, the shrine came into view. It was a towering structure made of stone, covered in moss and vines. At its center was a massive altar, carved with symbols that seemed to pulse with a faint golden light. The shrine felt alive, as though it were watching them. "This is it," Kwame said, his voice reverent. "The heart of Imbalu's power." Nyasha stepped forward, drawn to the altar. As she approached, the ground beneath her feet seemed to hum, and the golden light grew brighter. She placed her hands on the cold stone, and a jolt of energy shot through her, making her gasp. "It recognizes you," Kwame said, awe in his voice. "You're the one it's been waiting for." Before Nyasha could respond, the air was torn by a deafening roar. The creature had found them. It emerged from the fog, its form now even more grotesque. Flames licked at its vine-covered body, and its eyes burned with rage. "You cannot escape me," it bellowed. "The shrine will not save you, Nyasha. You belong to us." Kwame stepped between Nyasha and the beast, drawing another pouch from his satchel. "Won't let you take her," he shouted. The creature lunged, but this time, Nyasha didn't retreat. The energy coursing through her from the shrine filled her with a newfound strength. She raised her hands, and a barrier of golden light erupted around her and Kwame, forcing the creature back. The beast shrieked in fury, but its voice was drowned out by a deep, resonant sound emanating from the shrine itself. The symbols on the altar glowed brighter, and the ground shook as though the earth itself were awakening. "Nyasha!" Kwame yelled. "The shrine is reacting to you. It's giving you the power to fight." Nyasha closed her eyes, letting the energy flow through her. She felt connected to the land, the trees, the rivers, and even the spirits that had once protected Imbalu. She opened her eyes, now glowing with the same golden light, and faced the creature. "You will not harm my people," she said, her voice steady and commanding. "Your reign of terror ends here." The creature laughed, a chilling sound. "Do you think you can defeat me, girl? You are but one. And I am many." But Nyasha didn't falter. She raised her hands, and the light around her grew brighter, enveloping the entire shrine. The creature howled as the light began to burn away its vines, revealing the twisted spirit within. "Kwame!" Nyasha shouted. "Tell me what I must do." Kwame hesitated, his eyes wide with shock. "You have to bind it," he said. "But the power is dangerous. It could consume you." Nyasha glanced at him, determination in her glowing eyes. "Then so be it. I won't let this thing destroy my home." She stepped forward, her hands outstretched, as the battle for Imbalu reached its climax. The creature lunged one final time, and the earth seemed to hold its breath as Nyasha and the spirit collided, their fates entwined in a blinding flash of light. The blinding flash of light faded, leaving Nyasha kneeling at the shrine's altar. Her hands trembled, but the golden glow around her had subsided. The creature was gone. Not destroyed, but reduced to a faint whisper in the wind. For the first time in what felt like hours, the forest was silent, save for the rustling of leaves in a gentle breeze. Kwame rushed to her side, kneeling beside her. "Nyasha, are you alright?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. Nyasha nodded, though she felt drained. "It is over," she whispered, looking around. "The creature is gone." Kwame helped her to her feet. "You did it," he said, awe in his voice. "You harnessed the shrine's power without letting it consume you. The village is safe because of you." But Nyasha wasn't sure. She could still feel a faint presence lingering in the air, as though the spirit was watching her from a distance, waiting. She turned to Kwame, her brow furrowed. "It is not destroyed, is it?" she asked. "I can still feel it." Kwame hesitated before shaking his head. "No. You didn't destroy it, you subdued it. It's dormant now, bound to this shrine. But its influence is weakened, and it can no longer harm your village." Nyasha let out a shaky breath, relief washing over her. She turned to the altar, placing her hand on the cold stone. A warmth spread through her palm, and she heard a faint whisper, almost like a thank you from the shrine itself. But before she could dwell on it, the sound of footsteps reached them. She turned to see the villagers, led by her mother, Emma Ojeki, emerging from the forest. Their faces were a mix of awe, fear, and gratitude. "Nyasha," her mother called, rushing forward. She pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. "My child, what have you done?" "We saw the light from the village. It was as if the heavens themselves opened." Nyasha hugged her back, tears stinging her eyes. "It's over, Mama. The danger is gone." The villagers murmured amongst themselves, bowing their heads in reverence. One of the elders, Baba Ikin, stepped forward, leaning heavily on his staff. "You have done what no one else could, Nyasha," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "You have protected us, not with weapons, but with courage and the power of the land itself. You are a true daughter of Imbalu." The crowd erupted into cheers, their earlier fear now replaced with joy. Children danced, and women sang songs of praise. Nyasha stood there, overwhelmed by the outpouring of gratitude, but a part of her felt unsettled. The events of the night had changed her in ways she couldn't yet understand. As the villagers began to lead her and Kwame back to the village in celebration, Nyasha turned to him. "You said this wasn't over," she said quietly. "What did you mean by that?" Kwame's expression darkened slightly, though he tried to smile. "The spirit is bound, but it will never truly disappear. And there's something else, Nyasha, your connection to this land, to the shrine. It's stronger than you realize. It may call on you again." Nyasha nodded slowly. She didn't know what her future held, but she felt a strength within her that hadn't been there before. "If it calls," she said, her voice firm, "I'll be ready." As the village celebrated late into the night, Nyasha stood at the edge of the festivities, looking out at the forest. The shrine's faint glow was visible through the trees, a reminder of the power she had discovered and the responsibility that came with it. Kwame joined her, silent for a moment before speaking. "You're different now," he said. "Stronger." Nyasha looked at him, a small smile on her lips. "And you," she said, "are still a mystery." Kwame chuckled, but there was a hint of sadness in his laughter. "Some mysteries are best left unsolved, Nyasha." She turned back to the forest, her gaze steady. "Perhaps, but I'm not afraid of mysteries anymore." The dawn after the fateful night in Imbalu brought a renewed sense of calm, but for Nyasha, the experience had left her searching for answers. She wandered into the forest once more, finding herself back at the shrine. She knelt before the altar, not to seek more power, but to cry out in desperation. "Who am I?" she whispered. "Why have I been chosen? What is the purpose of all this?" As the sun rose, its rays broke through the dense canopy, casting a golden light on the shrine. And in the stillness, a voice seemed to fill her heart, not from the shrine, but from deep within her spirit. It was unlike anything she had ever heard, a gentle yet powerful voice. "Fear not, for I have redeemed you, I have called you by name, you are mine, Isaiah 43 verse 1. Nyasha gasped, tears streaming down her face. She had heard stories of the God of creation, the God who spoke to hearts and guided people through storms, but she had never truly sought him. Now, in the quiet of the forest, she knew he had been there all along, guiding her, protecting her, giving her the strength to face the darkness. She stood, filled with a peace she had never known, and walked back to the village. That day, she gathered the elders and the people, and with Kwame by her side, she spoke words that would change Imbalu forever. The power I used to defeat the darkness was not my own, she began, her voice steady. It was the light of the Creator, the one who made the heavens and the earth, the one who has loved us even when we did not know him. It is time for us to turn our hearts to him. The villagers listened intently as Nyasha spoke of God's power, his love, and his plan for their lives. Kwame shared his own journey of redemption, admitting his mistakes and how God had led him to Nyasha and to Imbalu. Together, they taught the people about the Word of God, drawing from the teachings of Scripture. Over time, the village of Imbalu was transformed. The shrine, once feared as a place of mystery and power, became a place of prayer and worship. The people built a small gathering space beside it, where they would meet to read and discuss the scriptures that Kwame had brought from his travels. Moral lessons with a biblical light. 1. God's strength in our weakness. Nyasha learned that the true power to overcome darkness comes not from within but from God. When we rely on him, he equips us to face any challenge. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9. 2. God's redemption and grace. Kwame's story reminds us that no mistake is too great for God to redeem. His grace is sufficient to restore and use anyone for his purpose. Ephesians 1 verse 7. 3. The light of God overcomes darkness. The people of Imbalu learned that no spiritual force, no matter how terrifying, can stand against the light of God's truth and love. John 1 verse 5. 4. God calls us for a purpose. Nyasha realized that her longing for more was a calling placed in her heart by God. He created her to be a light for her people and to lead them to him. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. 5. Faith brings unity. The village found peace and strength in their new faith, learning to live not for themselves, but for the greater good of glorifying God. Acts 2 verses 44 to 47. From that day onward, Imbalu became a village not just known for its beauty but for its faith. Nyasha continued to lead with wisdom and grace, and her story became a testament to the power of God to transform lives and bring light into even the darkest places. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing folktale stories. Click the notification bell to get updates on new stories.